Hello guys, welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here. You notice that my voice is a little bit raspy this week. I do apologize. I lost my voice, but we're taking imperfect action and we're recording the voiceover anyway. If you are new here, welcome. Hi, my name's Claire. I'm a naturopathic doctor and my goal for this channel is to help you guys feel more educated and empowered when it comes to your health. I love sharing these what I eat in a week to show you guys how you can incorporate more whole foods into your diet, more micronutrient dense foods, and also make sure that you're getting enough protein and fiber throughout the day. This is a way of eating that has really helped me when it comes to my hormonal health, my digestive health, my nervous system, and mental health. And these are principles that I talk about with my patients all the time in clinic. I also acknowledge that we're living in the real world and we're never striving for perfection when it comes to our diet. Rather, we're looking to set ourselves up for success, do our best, and make the best choices that we can. So now that we got that long spiel out of the way, let's just jump right into the video. For breakfast on Monday, I wasn't too hungry, so I just made these deviled eggs. I scooped out the egg yolks from some hard-boiled eggs. I used 2 egg yolks, smashed that with some avocado, pressed cottage cheese. They were actually really delicious. I feel like I was in a deviled egg mood because I filmed this right after Easter and I had those with some strawberries on the side just for some extra fiber. Had a coffee and then I got started on some meal prep. I was going into the clinic in the afternoon, so I just wanted to have some stuff all ready for dinner. You guys know one of my favorite things to have on hand is roasted Japanese sweet potatoes. I love these when you cook and cool them. They become a resistant starch. They help to feed the good gut bacteria and they help with blood sugar regulation. I was all out of avocado oil, so I just warmed up some coconut oil and I just cut up some of the Japanese sweet potatoes. And then I also knew that I was going to want parsnip fries for dinner. You guys can probably already tell what I'm going to make for dinner. I cut up my parsnips and then I always season these the same way. I just use sea salt, Ceylon cinnamon, and whatever oil I'm using. Like I said, normally avocado oil, but today I just did coconut. And then I'll just roast them in the oven at about 400 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. I just keep an eye on them and pull them out when they look like they're done. And then you guys have been asking me for more ideas for how you can incorporate sardines into your diet. You guys know I love sardines. They're super high on omega-3s, vitamin D, calcium, and B vitamins. They're lower on the food chain than other fish, so they tend to be lower in mercury, and they're also just really budget friendly. And one of my favorite ways to incorporate sardines is just to mix them into a tuna salad. I find the tuna flavor is so strong you can barely taste the sardines. So I used 1 can of tuna and then 2 cans of sardines, and then you can really make whatever type of tuna salad you like. You can use your own recipe. This is just what I do. So I did some pickles. I also added some parsley, garlic powder, and a little bit of dill. You can really use whatever herbs you have on hand. You can also use fresh herb. And for the creamy component, I ended up using some avocado mayo and about half an avocado mash. If you wanted to keep it higher protein, you could also use Greek yogurt. I just didn't have any on hand, but this is great. I love this for meal prep. I always try and have a carbohydrate, veggie, and protein prep. It just makes my meals come together so much easier because I always like to have those components in my meal. And this is just such a great one to have on hand, especially for summer. Now I had this pesto already in my fridge. I posted this recipe, but this is my dairy-free, nut-free pesto. It is so delicious. Something I love to have on hand, especially in the spring and summer. I opened up an avocado. You guys are always asking me how I always have ripe avocados. I just let them ripen on the counter and then I put them in the fridge. I find they'll last for almost a week if I put them in the fridge. So that is just a good tip. I added some of the tuna and sardine salad, and then I've really been trying to incorporate more beets into my diet. They're a great source of betaine, so great for liver and digestion, a natural source of nitrates, which can be converted to nitric oxide within the body, which is great for vascular health and blood pressure management. They're also super high in polyphenols. You guys know I love polyphenols. That, along with fiber, is what feeds our good gut bacteria. So that was my lunch. I also had some strawberries on the side just for some extra fiber, but there's actually tons of fiber in this lunch between the whole grain sourdough bread, beets, the avocado, the leafy greens, and the strawberries. You have about 10 grams of fiber. So after I got home from clinic, I immediately showered and changed into my PJs, and then I made dinner. You guys have seen me make this meal so many times. It's definitely a staple in the spring and summer. I just used the sweet potato to make my little sweet potato sliders with some ground beef. Had that with the parsnip fries. I mashed up some avocado, and I also added this beet sauerkraut just on the side, just for some extra veggies and probiotics, and that was dinner. So this is the breakfast that I've been having on repeat lately. It's just a slice of whole grain sourdough toast that I get from a local bakery. I add some honey on top, and then I just mash up some pressed cottage cheese, avocado. I have it with some medium boiled eggs and a few strawberries on the side, and it is so delicious. And then I just made a coffee and headed out to work. For dinner, we're making another one of my staple meals. We're doing tempeh spring rolls. I love these. It's just such an easy way to get lots of fiber, protein, lots of fresh vegetables, especially through the spring and the summer. For my tempeh, I've shown you how I make this so many times. I just marinate it in some tamari garlic powder and maple syrup, and I bake it at 400 for about 15 to 20 minutes. It is so great for meal prep. You can do it in strips, cubes, you can crumble it as well and use it as a replacement for ground beef or something like that. It is so delicious, but I love using it in the spring rolls. One of you guys actually DM'd me on Instagram asking me how I roll my spring rolls without getting the rice paper to break. Now, I'm definitely not an expert, and to be honest, sometimes my paper does end up ripping. My biggest tip is just to not oversaturate the rice paper. I really just dip it in water for maybe 2 to 3 seconds because it will continue to soften as you're piling on all of your fillings. So that is my biggest tip. I also try and roll them as tightly as possible. Again, you kind of have to balance it so that you don't rip the rice paper rolls. And then I also had some of my peanut sauce on hand. Again, you guys have seen me make this so many times, but I will link a video down below where I make the peanut sauce. And then I did make some banana bread over the weekend, so I just had a piece of banana bread for dessert, and that was Tuesday.
Baby, when I look in your eyes, I can see you as a child. The river gives us every good thing, and then it takes it all away. Don't take me away from you. Don't take me away from you. I feel like I knew you then, when I was a little boy. I spent my days imagining.
So on Wednesday, I just had another one of the tuna sandwiches. I had a little bit of the tuna salad left, not enough for a full serving, so I just had that on the side with some extra greens. I had a little bit of banana bread too because I was still a little bit hungry after lunch, and then headed out to the clinic. And then I came home and made the exact same dinner that I had on Monday.
shape of you. Oh, my source of love and fear. If I could lose them, could you be different? Could I let the rivers end?
For lunch on Thursday, I actually forgot to film this, but I made up some more of my roasted parsnips and carrots. I just baked these up the exact same way I showed you guys how I make the sweet potatoes and parsnip fries. They're so delicious. I love having these on hand. I also used up the rest of the sweet potatoes that I had in the fridge, and I had a little bit of ground beef left. Not enough for a full serving of protein, so I ended up adding a little bit more cottage cheese into my mashed avocado. I usually aim for about 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, so that's why I just wanted to add in a little bit more of the cottage cheese. You guys know I love this meal. It is so delicious, and that was my lunch on Thursday. And then on Thursdays for dinner, we always do broccoli, salmon, and sweet potatoes. I love this meal. It is such a staple for us. I love using frozen broccoli. It's just so convenient. I just pop it in the oven for about 20 minutes to defrost, and then I season it. Here, I use some olive oil, garlic powder, and salt. Pop it back in the oven just until it's cooked through. And then my boyfriend stopped off at the fish market and grabbed some salmon. I will say I had more fish than I normally do this week. Normally, I'll try and eat fish about 2 to 3 times per week just to make sure I get lots of those omega-3s. I really try and have as much diversity when it comes to my protein sources as I can. You guys know I love using plant-based sources like tofu and tempeh. Then I also love having chicken, beef, fish, eggs. I really just look for diversity because that helps you get more micronutrients. For example, when you include the soy, you get the isoflavones. When you eat lots of eggs, you get the choline. When you eat the red meat, you get nutrients like carnitine and iron. But anyway, that was our dinner. Of course, I always top it off with some tahini. I think I had about 2 bowls, and then I had some banana bread for dessert. And then my goal for Friday lunch is to always just clean out the fridge. So I just used up the rest of the leftover salmon. Had that with some leftover parsnips, carrots, and roasted broccoli, topped it off with some tahini, and that was just a very quick and easy lunch. And then I decided to make up another loaf of banana bread. I swear I've been making 1 to 2 loaves of this per week. It is just so delicious. Then on Friday, I really wanted to use up the rest of the pesto because I wasn't sure how much longer it was going to last in the fridge. So I just ran over to Italy and grabbed some fresh pasta. I love fresh pasta. I really do find it makes a difference. I also grabbed some onion and mushrooms. Our favorite is shiitake, so I did a mix of shiitake and white mushrooms, and I just sauteed those up in a pan. Once the onions and mushrooms were done, I just set those aside. I had my sous chef add a little bit of oil to the pan, and then I just cooked up some chicken thighs. I always cook my chicken thighs the same way. I do them stovetop with some garlic powder, parsley, and salt. It is so good. It's so great for meal prep as well. And then I always like to serve this with a side salad. Normally I mix the dressing before, but I forgot to do that. But I would definitely recommend mixing the dressing and then adding the leaves. I just think it emulsifies everything a lot better. But for my dressing, I just did olive oil, balsamic vinegar, parsley, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. So delicious. Once the pasta was done cooking, I just added the mushrooms and onions along with the rest of the pesto. This was so delicious. I served it with the chicken and the salad. We also picked up some fresh burrata, which is always a nice little treat. And then you guys know I don't really film on the weekends, but I always like to include some clips. This weekend we did go out for sushi, which was really, really fun. And I always just like to hang out with friends and have that relaxing chill time. That being said, that does bring us to the end of the video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it, got some meal ideas or inspiration. As always, let me know what you guys want to see more of on this channel. If you guys did make it all the way to the end of the video, drop a green heart in the comments just to let me know that you made it to the end. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because we would love to have you here every week. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!